Hey everybody, welcome to this month's product training. I'm here with Mike Saunders, our Director of R&D. You've heard from him before and we know how much you love hearing from him. And we're excited for his training this month. It's going to be on Probionic Plus. And so maybe you're not familiar with that plus part, and that's what he's going to be going over today. So we're excited to hear from him, and I'll turn the time over to him now. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you very much, Micah. So I'm really excited to be here today to talk about Probionic Plus because I've been learning a lot about why we should be taking Probionic Plus. This is one of those things that the science behind microbiome is just mind-blowing. It's incredible to think about all the new things that we're learning. I want everybody to close your eyes and start thinking about maybe some plants, animals, different things that you might find on the earth. So close your eyes and think about as many plants, animals, creatures, anything as you can. I'm guessing most of you were able to think of many different things. When we think about the earth, it's totally covered in different plants, totally covered in a huge variety of animals. These plants, these animals, insects, they all kind of work together, and sometimes they do things that are good for the environment. Sometimes people, they do things that are not so great for the environment. And even though we're just little teeny tiny, basically small little living specks on the earth, and on the scale of the universe, we're very, very small, we have a pretty big impact on the health of the earth. That's kind of like the way microbiome works in us. We say good metabolic health starts in the gut, and that's really true. You are what you eat. But the reason you are what you eat isn't really what we think when we say that. The reason you are what you eat is because, unlike the earth, we actually have control over our microbiome. The earth is pretty much stuck with human beings all over the earth that sometimes do good things for the earth, sometimes do bad things for the earth. It doesn't really get a say. We get to control what our microbiome is because we can control what we put into our bodies. Now, I want to give you just a small idea of the scale of the microbiome. Humans have about 20,000, maybe 25,000 human genes in their body. This was a study that was done on a group of European, Chinese, and American people looking at their microbial genes. And in just these three small groups, there was over 10 or almost 10 million microbial genes identified. That is incredible. I want you to think about that for a second. 20,000 human genes, but inside our bodies, 10 million microbial genes. These are genes that are actually doing stuff. They're encoding for proteins. They're excreting small molecules. They're actively working inside of our bodies. And most of the time, they're actually supposed to be working inside of our bodies. This is actually kind of an interesting image looking at the diversity of different microbes just on our skin, which is not an area where we have a huge amount of microbes as compared to our gut. But we do have microbes living on our skin that are supposed to live there. On one side, there is microbial diversity. And based on the scale, you can see there's a lot of bluish dots. These are areas where it's less diverse. And even in those less diverse areas, if you look on the right side of the screen where it says biochemical, that's the areas where there's different molecules that have been excreted by our microbiome. And even though there's less diversity of microbes on our skin in some areas, there's a huge diversity of small molecules that these microbes have excreted. Now, the small molecules are what the microbes use to communicate to each other. And it's also what our cells use to communicate with each other. All cells, whether bacterial or mammalian cells, use small molecules to talk to each other. And Bacteria have evolved with our bodies. They've learned how to communicate with our cells. They excrete small molecules specifically to communicate with our cells. That actually is part of why they impact human life and our health. I want to talk about a study that was done at, I think, UC San Francisco. This was a really cool study. They've actually done several studies with infants. Infants have they have a very basic microbiome of their own when they're born. And lots of different things affect their microbiome growth. And if you look at differences in what an infant is exposed to, whether it's vaginally delivered or cesarean, whether it's breastfed or formula fed, you get significant differences in the microbiome. And this study was just specifically looking at the microbiome of infants. And then 2 years later, phenotypically, whether they were overweight or not. And they basically took all this microbiome information that they had gotten from the infants, and they broke the microbiomes into 3 different groups. And then they looked to see if there were any differences phenotypically 2 years down the road. So basically, if the babies looked different later. And they found that with one of the microbiomes, the babies had a higher tendency towards being obese. That was the microbiome of the babies that were predominantly formula fed. There were some other factors as well, but that was one of the main factors. It changes the microbiome, and it actually led to enhanced rates of childhood obesity. They've done similar studies with asthma and allergies, where different factors in infants' first few weeks to months of life dramatically impact whether they're going to be likely to get asthma or allergies. If a child is not exposed to pets, livestock, they actually have a higher risk of getting asthma or allergies, because you're supposed to be around bacteria. You're supposed to be around dirty things, so to speak. And as you grow up, it changes your microbiome. And your microbiome actually protects you from certain disease states if it's a healthy microbiome. There are a wide variety of diseases that have been associated with microbiome. Some of the more interesting ones are these disease states of the brain, like depression, autism, but asthma is really, really common. Allergies, really, really common. Diseases that are associated with microbiome problems. The good news is, like I was saying before, we're not like the earth. We're not stuck with what we have. Microbiome changes all the time. Changes begin to happen in 3 to 4 days. So this article says that in 3 to 4 days, your microbiome can start to change. There's been additional studies that have been done that say 90 days to 6 months, you can have a complete change in your microbiome from an unhealthy microbiome to a very healthy microbiome if you're consistent for 90 days to 6 months. So we can dramatically impact our health through impacting our microbiome. The traditional way of doing this, the easiest way to do this is through direct addition of good bacteria. And that's one of the great things about Probionic Plus. Probionic Plus is very similar to probiotic in the sense that it is a probiotic. That means that you are adding bacteria, healthy bacteria, into your gut. There are some differences between Probionic Plus and probiotic. One of the key differences between the two is that Probionic Plus has 11 strains of healthy bacteria. When you think about the microbiome, you need to think about what's already living there. Because sometimes when you add bacteria into your gut, what's already there fends it off. You can have very little impact from probiotic from a probiotic, depending on the types of microbes that are living in your gut. Now, the greater variety of microbes that you're taking in your probiotic, the better your chance that you're going to find some that can fit in there and start to grow. So that's one of the reasons why we have a greater variety. Another reason I'm going to talk about later is that these bacteria that we're putting in this new Probionic Plus are associated with different health states. So Probionic was more associated with just overall gut health. There's some new things that I'm going to talk about later that Probionic Plus is also associated with. Another key factor with Probionic Plus is that we've changed the coating on the probiotic. With our original Probionic, it was microencapsulated, and this did protect the bacteria while they were in your stomach so that more bacteria would be alive when they got into your intestine where they're actually useful. Now, we've switched that to a patented quadruple coated system. The reason we've done that is because one of the key issues with probiotics is that the bacteria don't just start to die when you take them, when you swallow them. They actually start to die in the container. Shelf life is actually a really tricky thing with probiotic type supplements. If you were to just take regular bacteria and put it in a pill or in a stick pack like what we use at Unicity, where you swallow the powder, over time, that bacteria is going to start to die. And most of the bacteria that you're eating is going to be no longer viable. That's critical because you need live bacteria in order to have this probiotic effect that we want. So with this quadruple coating, we get protection for the bacteria, almost like some bacteria create a spore for themselves, and that protects them from the environment so that they can survive. This is almost like creating a spore for the bacteria so that they can survive in the environment longer. This quadruple coating also supports the bacteria while they're in our stomach. So over the course of a year of storage and then swallowing it, getting through our stomach into our system, we end up getting 4 to 5 times the amount of live bacteria that we would get with a normal probiotic. So this is one of the great things about Probionic Plus, is we're getting a higher effective dose. It also, not only does it keep them alive, but it keeps the bacteria working better so that they can actually attach to the gut membrane, the gut wall better, so they can start to grow better, so that they can start to colonize our gut much more easily. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the new strains, some of the benefits of the new strains. One of the key benefits of having a healthy microbiome is these organic small molecules that are on the slide here: acetate, propionate, butyrate. These are called short-chain fatty acids. These are some of the molecules that healthy bacteria use to signal to our own human cells. They use these molecules to signal to our immune system. They use these molecules to signal to the gut lining. Our gut actually uses, the cells in our gut actually use these molecules as an energy source. So these molecules keep our gut healthier. They help with inflammation and all sorts of things. They're actually very, very key. And we find that only certain bacteria really increase the levels of specifically propionate and butyrate. And the bacteria that we're putting in Probionic Plus increase the level of propionate and butyrate significantly. That has a lot of impacts on our gut health. You see the Great Wall of China here. That's there because one of the key things that the bacteria in Probionic Plus do is increase the health of the intestinal barrier. Your intestine are supposed to prevent some things from getting into the blood. They're supposed to act as a membrane that molecules that we want to cross can cross, molecules that we don't want to cross cannot cross. So healthy bacteria increases that barrier function and makes those cells work how they're supposed to. My oldest son is really into magic cards right now, so I put a magic card on here for him. and it's called absorb. One of the key things that our intestines are supposed to do is help us absorb nutrients. Well, if we don't have a healthy microbiome, we don't absorb nutrients as well. Sometimes it's because our body can't digest on its own. We need the bacteria in our gut to help us digest our food, to break down into those nutrients. Sometimes it's a function of the barrier wall kind of effect. But the bottom line is Probionic Plus improves our absorption of nutrients. Immune health. Immune health is critical. And in the world right now, with the various viruses and things that are going around, people are really concerned about immune health. If you're concerned about immune health, you should be concerned about gut health. There's really no differentiation between immune health and gut health. If you have an unhealthy gut, your immune system is going to have problems. Bacteria actually communicate with immune cells in your gut and help regulate those immune cells. There's multiple different types of immune cells in your body. If you have a healthy microbiome, you end up with more of a low inflammation T1 type cells that actually act as immune cells, but in a low inflammation type of a way. So rather than the T2 type cells, which are higher inflammation cells. So bacteria can affect inflammation, all sorts of things in your body. And Probionic Plus has been specifically designed to have strains of bacteria that help in all of these areas. Now, I want to talk about some other things that we need to think about when we're thinking about gut health, because microbiome is huge. I said before, when you're starting with Probionic Plus, sometimes the bacteria that are currently in your system can actually prevent new bacteria, healthy bacteria, from getting a foothold. So if we haven't done a cleanse in a long time, if we're new to Unicity, we've never done a cleanse, it might be time to start thinking about doing a cleanse. Starting with the Unicity cleanse, well, it has some great things in there to clean out your intestines and flush things out. But one of the key things in there is the Paraway Plus, which actually contains a significant amount of antibiotics. So you can actually start over fresh, a little bit more of a blank slate. You can give your body room for the healthy bacteria from Probionic Plus to get a foothold and really start to grow. There was a clinical study done on ulcerative colitis where they treated the patients with, they called it a synthetic microbiome. Basically, all it was probiotics, a good mix of healthy bacteria. And they tried introducing this synthetic microbiome into patients, and they had almost no success rate with ulcerative colitis until they fed the patients an antibiotic first. Once they fed them an antibiotic first, they had 40% success rate in helping with ulcerative colitis by using a probiotic product, a synthetic microbiome that was designed in their lab. So starting with Unicity Cleanse can be critical to helping your microbiome start over and grow right with Probionic Plus. Another thing that we should be doing is thinking about prebiotics, good food for our microbiome. Bio7 is really a premier microbiome growing product. Probionic Plus is amazing to get your body kickstarted, to get those bacteria growing. There's no reason to not be taking Probionic Plus. Everybody should be taking that one every single day. But when we start taking Bio7, we enhance the microbial diversity significantly. There's no way that we can have a probiotic with all of the different strains of bacteria in it that our body needs. Bio7 feeds those bacteria, helps them grow so that we have an overall healthy microbiome. Bio7 is one of those things, it's not necessarily an immediate effect product. It's a product where you start taking it, 90 days down the road, your microbiome is really starting to change. You're starting to get significantly healthier because of that. So take your Bio7. Another one that we don't think about all that often, it's part of the cleanse pack, and we take it with the cleanse pack, but life fiber we should be taking every day, because life fiber is a great lower cost microbiome boosting product full of prebiotic fibers that help your body maintain healthy microbiome. So I'm going to say again, Probionic Plus is an amazing new product. It's an update to our older probiotic that gives us a greater range of health benefits, has a quadruple coated system that actually allows the good healthy bacteria to survive longer, get into our system, actually attach to our intestinal wall, and do a better job of growing than any other system out there. So we should be using Probionic Plus every day. I know that we need to be eating healthy, we need to be exercising, we need to be doing all these great things for our body, but we also need to be using these products to help bridge the gap to where we need to be. And with product usage, with continual, consistent use of things like Bio7, things like Probionic Plus, things like Live Fiber, using the Cleanse Pack appropriately, you're changing the world inside your body. And you're able to actually take that, give it to your friends, help them, make them healthier, and change the world in that way as well. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate your time, and I'll be back with you guys in next month or the month after for another topic. Thank you very much. Bye.